Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And I know what you're thinking. If you've been following along with the 25 days of cupcake decorating for Vlogmas this year, you're probably thinking, Ashley, you don't even have to be a baker to know that is not a cupcake that you're making. And I'm going to be honest, I realize it's not a cupcake. However, I will say it is probably the same serving amount as a cupcake. So I thought I'd sneak in the trendy mini cake slash bento cake into the mix of things. I'm going to be showing you a more true bento cake style in a future tutorial, but for today, we are going with the mini cake. Now, I'm not certain, but I do think that the two differ in that the mini cake has filling in between and it's a bit higher, whereas a bento cake is more flat and meant to be packed in a lunchbox manner. The key to making sure that you can ice your mini cake in an effective and smooth manner is applying enough buttercream. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. My buttercream smoothing on this is not perfect, not anywhere near perfect. And honestly, before I saw the footage, I thought it looked pretty good. But my eyes are not the best, and the lighting is not the best right now at this time of year, so I really only noticed how imperfect it was once I saw it in 4K in my editing program. But I do know exactly why this happened, so I can help you avoid this from happening to you. So I'm using Italian meringue buttercream, which has a lot of hold to it. There's a lot of butter in there, and the process of making the meringue is very, very strong. So what ends up happening sometimes if your cake is too cold when you're using Italian meringue buttercream is it can cause things to solidify quite quickly on you before you can get things nice and smoothed out. So the torch in this instance is your friend, and I actually had it pretty smooth using the torch and palette technique and the bench scraping technique. It was nice and smooth. However, I had a few instances in which I didn't like what I piped on there, so I scraped it off. I didn't use my torch over and over again, and thus that is why my buttercream isn't as smooth as it could possibly be. But let's say you run into a little incident where you just can't get things smooth. It's okay. We'll just fix it with some piping. So I'm using a number 24 tip here, which is basically a small star tip, which is perfect. You don't want to go really big with the tips on this cake, obviously, because it's going to be way too overwhelming for the size. When creating that border, you're just wiggling back and forth, keeping that turntable moving. I can't remember if I'm using a number 3 here or a number 2. Number 2 is my go-to, but I feel like this might be a number 3 that I picked up by accident and then I just went with it. Honestly, a number 2 would probably look a little bit more delicate, so I would recommend using that. You'll notice that I put dots at the top of my cake. This just ensures that everything is nice and even when I'm dropping these swags. And I'm keeping these swags nice and slow for you here so you can see exactly how I do it. Lots of pressure at the beginning, back off on the pressure, let that buttercream come out naturally and pull away from the cake. And you'll notice that some of the swag is actually not even touching the cake. You can go back in and dot the swag just a little bit at the bottom so that the buttercream is actually making contact with your cake. I love a good swag, so I'm going to do a double swag moment here. You can obviously just do one if you would like to, and if you do struggle with making swags with just a round tip, which can be really tricky, I suggest you go in with the number 24 and just wiggle back and forth and create the look of a true swag like this, just using that crinkly tip, and it's going to look really, really pretty. I didn't initially have a plan for this tip. I knew I wanted to do something with squiggles of some sort, so I decided to go with a leaf shape. And in order to achieve this leaf shape, I'm using a petal tip. The thinnest one is probably going to suit best for this type of thing. And then I'm kind of coming down one side and coming up the other side. And make sure that when you are ending off with your piping, you stop squeezing that piping bag and you just kind of finesse it off. That's what's going to give you the best ending. Now, don't worry if those ends are not looking perfect. We're going to cover them up with, yet again, another border on the inside here. So we're using that number 24 tip again, and I'm using a swirling motion. I learned how to do this a few years ago. I saw it was really popular on the edges of cakes, and I just love this technique. It's really, really easy, and it makes your border look a little bit different than just doing a seashell type border. Speaking of seashell borders, I'm just going to do one little seashell teardrop type shape in between each segment. If you're going to be doing a lot of holiday baking this year and you're making some treat boxes, I assure you a small piece like this inside of your treat box encased in an extra special box or compartment is really a showstopper. Then I'm going to add on some rosettes, again, using the exact same tip. Honestly, you could decorate this entire cake with the number 24 tip if you would like to. And starting from the center, and I do make sure that I go counterclockwise. I don't really think it makes a huge difference, but I do find I get more of a rose shape when I go counterclockwise instead of clockwise. I made these little gingerbread transfers out of royal icing, and they just go so well on so many desserts and so many things, and it transforms this vintage cake into a fun Christmas holiday cake. So I know this is not a true cupcake, but honestly, it's just kind of like a jumbo cupcake. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm still uploading every single day for Vlogmas. We have plenty more of Vlogmas to go, so be sure to come back tomorrow. And if you are not done with watching cake decorating videos, be sure to check out the Bake Down podcast where we are reacting to 25 days of decorating fails. Bye!